Ferrari just did something in Bahrain that forced engineers from 3 rival teams to walk into the FIA office within hours. A single lap. 1 minute 34.273. 4/10 clear. It was not just fast. It was unnatural. Because the SF-26 gained nearly 200 meters on the main straight before anyone else even reached peak deployment. 200 meters. That is not evolution. That is a statement. But here is the part nobody is saying out loud. That speed might be coming from something the FIA is already investigating. And if that is true, this is not just a fast test day. This is the beginning of a political storm. Teams are confused. Engineers are uncomfortable. And inside Ferrari's own garage, there is tension between 2 world-class drivers who do not want the same car. 1 car, 2 philosophies, and a power surge that could either win races or collapse over a full Grand Prix distance. By the end of this video, you'll understand why manufacturers were left speechless, why the FIA cameras were pointed directly at the Ferrari front wing, and why Day 3 could completely change the narrative. Subscribe now, because what happened on Day 2 in Bahrain might already have reshaped the championship fight. Let's go deeper into that morning session, because on the surface, it looks simple. Leclerc goes fastest. Ferrari celebrates quietly. Headlines explode. But underneath that 1 minute 34.273, there is a pattern. A very specific pattern. Sector 1 was where everything happened. Not by a small margin, by a decisive margin. The Ferrari was gaining aggressively before the braking zone even arrived. You could see it on the GPS overlays. The acceleration phase was brutal. The car almost lunged forward. And here is what makes it uncomfortable for rivals. That gain was not coming from corner exit alone. It was deployment strategy. Energy release, peak electrical power used early in the straight, which means Ferrari is front-loading performance. They are choosing where to be unbeatable. And that is a strategic decision, because if you dominate the first half of the straight, you control positioning. You force the car behind to react. You defend before the battle even starts. But there is a cost. There is always a cost. After that violent surge, the SF-26 begins to taper off. The electrical assistance reduces earlier than Red Bull, earlier than McLaren. The Ferrari reaches top speed first, and then plateaus, while others continue pulling. Over 1 lap, it works, because you only need that explosion once. In qualifying trim, that is devastating. But in race trim, when energy management must be sustainable, that strategy becomes fragile. And this is where teams started whispering. Is Ferrari hiding efficiency problems behind raw deployment? Or are they simply confident they can fix it before round 1? Because telemetry does not lie. The battery draw was aggressive, very aggressive. And when Hamilton stepped into the car later for long runs, the story became clearer. The power delivery was not linear. It was sharp, punchy, then inconsistent, which suggests the software mapping is still being refined. Now here is why this matters more than people realize. The 2026 regulations put enormous emphasis on hybrid efficiency. Energy recovery, energy deployment, electrical management is not secondary anymore. It is central. So if Ferrari has found a way to extract extreme peak performance, even at the expense of stability, that means they have unlocked something powerful. Maybe too powerful. And rivals know that if Ferrari smooths this out, if they solve the clipping without sacrificing that early straight advantage, then the gap could grow significantly. But here is the tension. Every solution creates another problem. Smoothing torque reduces shock to the rear tires, but it can reduce that explosive feel Leclerc is exploiting. Limiting deployment preserves battery life, but it might eliminate the Sector 1 dominance. So Ferrari is walking a tightrope. Fastest car in the morning. Biggest question marks by sunset. And this is only block 1 of the story. Because what happened inside the garage later in the afternoon adds another layer entirely. Now the afternoon, because this is where the narrative shifts. Morning was speed. Afternoon was reality. Lewis Hamilton climbed into the SF-26 with a completely different program. High fuel, long stints, heavy car, and the goal was simple. Simulate a Grand Prix. This is where illusions disappear. And almost immediately, something felt different. The car still had pace, but the rhythm was broken. Out of slow corners, the torque hit hard. Very hard. The rear stepped just enough to demand correction. Then halfway down the straight, the push faded. Not dramatically, but noticeably. And that subtle inconsistency forces a driver to adjust braking points lap after lap. That destroys confidence. And confidence is everything over a long run. Here is where things get serious. Hamilton was not complaining about outright speed. He was questioning drivability, the way the power arrived, the way it disappeared, the way the car reacted when crosswinds hit the rear on the back straight. And this exposes something deeper. The SF-26 has a narrow operating window. When it is inside that window, it looks spectacular. Sharp turn in, aggressive rotation, excellent traction in slow corners. But when wind changes direction, or the ride height shifts slightly over bumps, the balance moves quickly, and Hamilton prefers stability over aggression. He builds lap time progressively. He leans on consistency. Leclerc thrives on instability. He attacks it. He rotates the car on entry. He uses that loose rear to pivot the nose. Two elite drivers, two completely different interpretations of speed. And Ferrari now sits in the middle, because every setup change to calm the front end reduces the rotation that makes the car explosive. Every adjustment to protect the rear tires softens the aggression that created that headline lap. And engineers know this. They can see it in the data. Hamilton was stronger through the high-speed direction changes, managing weight transfer with precision. Leclerc was dominant in traction zones and heavy braking areas. The potential is there, in both sectors, but nobody has put together in a single, complete race simulation yet. And that is the real tension, because the car is not slow, is divided. Divided between philosophies, divided between qualifying strength and race sustainability. And as the sun began to drop over Bahrain, something became clear inside the paddock. Ferrari might have built the most powerful concept on the grid, but power without control is unpredictable. And unpredictability in a championship fight is a risk few teams survive. But we are still not at the core of the concern, because what the FIA cameras captured later that evening may matter even more than the lap times themselves. Now we arrive at the part that made rival engineers stop pretending this was just testing, because late in the afternoon, the FIA cameras were no longer casually recording. They were focused, locked on the Ferrari front wing, and more specifically on how it behaved at high speed. Here is what raised eyebrows. At maximum velocity, the front wing flaps appeared to adjust subtly, not in a dramatic way, not visibly illegal, but enough to suggest movement under load. And under the new regulations, movable aerodynamic devices are heavily restricted. Very heavily restricted. Ferrari's system is officially designed to reduce drag on the straights. That is legal. That is within the rules. But in high-speed corners, footage suggests the flaps may not be operating symmetrically, which introduces a dangerous question. Is the system only reducing drag, or is it also helping stabilize the car mid-corner? Because if the wing subtly adjusts to maintain balance while cornering, that crosses into primary aerodynamic control. And that is where legality becomes complicated. Most people watching timing screens never notice this, but rival technical directors did. Immediately. And here is why this matters far beyond Bahrain testing. If Ferrari has found a way to combine active drag reduction with cornering stability, they have effectively recreated a form of aerodynamic suspension. Not mechanical, not visible, but responsive. And that would explain something crucial. Why the car looks planted in fast direction changes when it is inside its operating window. And why it becomes nervous when airflow stalls unexpectedly. It suggests the entire concept relies on very precise aero balance control. Now imagine this scenario. The FIA reviews the data overnight. They determine the behavior exceeds the intent of the regulation. Ferrari is forced to adjust software parameters before the first race. Suddenly, the high-speed balance shifts. The narrow operating window becomes even narrower, and that explosive sector 1 advantage may not feel the same. That possibility alone is enough to make manufacturers uneasy, because if the system is legal, Ferrari has outsmarted everyone. If it is not, the political fallout begins before the season even starts. And remember something important. The SF-26 already has energy management questions. It already has sensitivity to ride height changes. Remove even a small piece of aerodynamic stability, and the entire structure becomes more fragile. This is not about cheating. It is about interpretation. Formula One has always lived in that gray space, and Ferrari appears to be operating right on the edge of it. But here is the deeper layer most fans are not discussing. If the FIA allows this concept to continue, other teams will copy it. Rapidly, aggressively, and that forces a development war earlier than expected. Which means Bahrain testing was not just about lap time. It may have been the first political battle of the new regulation era, and Ferrari fired the opening shot. Now ask yourself this. If you are Red Bull, if you are McLaren, and you just saw that straight-line surge combined with potential aerodynamic trickery, do you stay calm? Or do you start preparing countermeasures immediately? Because sometimes the most important battle is not fought on Sunday, is fought in meeting rooms. And tonight, those meeting rooms are busy.